go.
Get ready, get set for the best movie and pop culture talk in the universe. It's The Good Brothers on Mercado Airwaves with your hosts, Alex Mercado and Mike Mercado.
Hello and welcome in, friends, to another edition of The Good Brothers here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and I am holding down the fort because the Good Brother himself, Alex Mercado, is on location today. But don't worry, we are still your highwaymen between LA and New York City to give you all the major news and notes from the pop culture and entertainment world. And on today's show, we got to talk about the heavyweight fight of the century. We give you our review of Godzilla vs. Kong. We also have to break down episode 2 and 3 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We also have some major news coming from Warner Brothers about the DCEU. We got to talk about that and so much more on this edition of The Good Brothers. But before we get to all that, let's take care of some housekeeping notes. You can follow us all over the universe. I'm on Twitter at Mike and Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and you can follow the show on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. The Good Brother himself, Alex Mercado, is on Twitter at Mercado21Alex and on Instagram at Mercado2121. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We're on all the major platforms at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the network at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves, the home to our interviews with athletes and celebrities that you could get ad-free and before anybody else. That's patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag. Check us out at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Come play video games with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. And of course, keep up to date with everything we're doing on the network, from the True Crime Show, the Pop Culture Show, our interviews, the Sports Show, our sister podcast, the Gone Missing Podcast, by following us on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. Alrighty, friends, and first thing first, we need to review, we need to gush over the debut, the release of Godzilla vs. Kong, and my friends, did it make a huge impact, pun intended. What a wonderful, fun time watching this movie. Before we get into spoilers and a deep dive in this movie, we want to give a general review of it if you haven't seen it yet, and some notes of it. First, we want to talk about what it got when it comes to the ratings and reviews from you, the people, and other critics around the community. On Rotten Tomatoes right now, it has a 79% fresh rating and a 94% from the audience. And that in itself is the story, that it delivered in everything that it promised. Hell, the title is Godzilla vs. Kong, and it delivers in that message. I have some notes I want to get to and talk about some spoiler stuff. But before we get into all that, I'll go ahead and just give you the score I gave the movie, and of course, the score and review given by the Good Brother himself, Alex Mercado. And with that, why don't we start off with the Good Brother himself, Alex Mercado's review of Godzilla vs. Kong. And this is from him on his Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Hashtag Godzilla vs. Kong is a monster movie masterpiece. What more could you ask for? Plenty of screen time for our favorite kings. Yeah, the acting is cheesy, but in the best way by some of the most entertaining actors working. 9.5 out of 10. And yeah, I mean, I think he makes a great point of it. The cheesiness is perfect. The CGI is perfect. The dues that are given to these iconic characters in the medium is wonderful, and you just got to give them a huge shout out for what Adam Wingard and that entire staff did for that movie. So 9.5 out of 10 for the Good Brother. Here's my review that you could have got at Mike and Media on Twitter. Hashtag Godzilla vs. Kong was everything it needed to be. So many jaw-dropping moments. Team Godzilla got all the respect and had such a powerful presence. Team Kong is the soul of this movie. I fell in love with the big guy. A treat for the whole family. 9 out of 10. And that's what we'll start off with, is Adam Wingard and what he did with this movie. There were a bunch of writers, and obviously this being a big movie when it comes to the studio, a lot of hands were in the kitchen making this thing go. But what you could tell too is there was a lot of TLC in this movie. There was a lot of moments that they listened to the community, to the fans who have been talking about certain complaints that they had about this MonsterVerse franchise between Kong Skull Island and, of course, the two Godzilla movies. And what happened with this one is they paid attention And they give you everything that you wanted plus more and stuff that you never even could have imagined. And that is from the directing hands of Adam Wingard. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the stuff I did like, especially that I thought really make this movie such an enjoyable watch. First is Godzilla was put over super hard. This character, they make him out to be the overpowered beast that it is. And that's what I loved about right in the beginning of this movie. They tell you, they're like, we can't have Kong out there. Godzilla's going to go after him and he's going to destroy him. And throughout the entire movie, especially as they make you fall in love with King Kong, and we'll talk about that, is you felt scared for him. Whenever Godzilla came on screen or whenever that music hit, you knew not only was something going to go down, but our guy, our big giant ape of a friend, had a chance to get his stuff kicked in. And I think they just hit that out of the ballpark of how dangerous this character is. Because we all walked into this movie thinking, he's a nuclear power plant in T-Rex form. How is this monkey going to beat him, this giant ape? And I love that they go ahead and answer it right away. And King Kong is just so lovable in this damn movie. We're going to go into a couple spoilers alert, but they have this really cute little girl who doesn't speak English. She does sign language, right? And of course, I mean, you don't see it coming, but it makes all the sense in the world. Kong does sign language. And that moment, it gives him such a personality. It gives him something that you can hold on to. And that is such an anchor of this film going forward, is how invested you are in Kong and how lifelike he is and how lovable and charming, and from the smiles and the way he does a head nod. And they do such a great job of making you not only love the coolness and the powerness of Godzilla, but the simpleness of a King Kong. And we're talking about a giant ape. And they just make him seem like it's your friend George. Love that. I thought that was such great directing and writing. And the big thing too is the action in this movie, how really clear it is. Because, okay, the first thing in a Godzilla and a King Kong movie is you got to hit it out of the ballpark with those two characters. They got to look cool. They got to sound cool. They got to do cool things. You can't job them out. And for those of you who don't know what job out means, is make them look bad and lose. So if you do that, all right, you're in a really good spot already. You got a really good head start. The next thing is, how good does the action look? Can I see what's going on? Does it just look like a big computer mess? Is it too dark? Is it too bright? Too much neon? Not enough? All these different questions. And somehow, watching this film, even though, man, it is going to go with the injustice of not being able to be enjoyed in a IMAX theater. But every moment in this movie, you are watching it, you can see what's going on. The action is well choreographed. The CGI is phenomenal. They don't hide any of their faults by putting raindrops or in the dark. And the scenes that are in nighttime are filled with Tokyo, Hong Kong lights. You know, so they really hit on the stuff that we didn't like in the two Godzilla movies and the things we didn't like in the Kong Skull Island movies, and then what we did like in all of them. You know, the great color of Skull Island, but some of the great action of King of the Monsters and the original Godzilla. And they knocked that all out of the park. And like we mentioned, the design, the CGI. Let's talk about the designs. The creature designs in this movie, all-time classic. We're talking 20, 30 years from now, these are going to be the versions of these characters we're going to remember, we're going to think of. The lore building of these other monsters that they're putting into this monsterverse, which, by the way, might not even be a thing moving forward. We don't know yet. Warner Brothers doesn't have plans yet. They might have ideas, but there's nothing set in stone. There isn't even a post-credits scene in this movie. So it's interesting if this is a one-and-done type of thing. And whether or not we do get this new monsterverse, that a big point of this movie is the storyline of the lore building of this hollowed earth. And one of the things that I loved about this movie is, if you're a Godzilla fan, if you're a kaiju fan, if you're a fan of any of these type of movies, so much of the lineage of this is, while it starts off with, you know, science fiction and like drama in the original ones, by the time we get to 2021, this is a series in Godzilla that has gone supernatural, that has gone sci-fi, that has gone hard action, that's done it all. Aliens, time travel, they've done the gambit. So to have this one, and they modernized it, right? They do conspiracy theories. They do Hollow Earth. They do sci-fi. They do paranormal. All in this movie. And in such a way that it's goofy, but it's fun. And it follows the story. And if you're a fan of these movies, you feel right at home. And the fact that they knew to do that was such a home run. Wow, making it feel so intense. There were so many times where I'm watching this movie and I'm like, there's no way that they're going to do this, is it? There's times where you let yourself believe that one of your main characters is going to get it 20 minutes into the movie because there's so many stakes. Everything is such high adrenaline when it comes to it, right? It's so well paced. So not only are you emotionally invested in it, but there's no time where you feel that you're just lagging through and just trying to get to the next point. Everything feels like it's leading you to one moment. And to me, that's one of the things that really makes this film so successful. Beyond you having to do the right thing by making Godzilla and King Kong awesome. That's your first job. Then the action needs to be great. And I have to be able to see that action. But what they were able to do to make me care and believe that some of this stuff was going to happen, top notch. And of course, we got to get into the major spoiler if you don't want to know. But these two iconic characters are going back and forth fighting against each other. And we knew there had to be a real bad guy, the third person in this fight. And man, oh man, do they deliver with Mecha Godzilla. Obviously, top tier bad guy in the Godzilla mythos. And it was going to be interesting to see how they incorporated that character into this series. Because we talked about supernatural and aliens and time travel. That has a lot to do with this one. We've seen the King Ghidorah as Mecha King Ghidorah. They kind of hint at this one. And also involving super smart humans instead of aliens, but still kind of going through that line of like, well, what's magic and sci-fi and what's real science? They do a great job of going through that line as well. And then when they do cross it, it's wonderful and you're all in on it. But Mecha Godzilla, you talk about putting over Godzilla and Kong. They make this such a threat. And mind you, he's in the movie for 15 minutes, max, and such a huge impact. And again, you talk about so many moments where like, they might just kill one of these two main characters right now. So I thought, you talk about having to nail it. If you were going to deliver Mecha Godzilla, you had no choice but to make him awesome. And I think they did it. So what does this mean, though, moving forward? We didn't get a post-credit scene, and we've heard from Adam Wingard and from some of the reports coming out of Legendary and Warner is they're not sure what to do moving forward. And you even hear Adam talk about the world might be ready for just a straight King Kong movie or a straight Godzilla movie with no humans. And I don't think the studios will ever go that far. But here's another thing too. A lot of people always go into this movie saying that the human characters are the worst part. And again, that's true in this movie, but it's not the same. I actually think Team Godzilla and Team Kong have interesting stories. More Team Kong, but it didn't feel just thrown in there. Everybody had something to do, except for Kyle Chandler. But I didn't feel like they were a waste of space. And especially how fast and as smooth as the movie goes, I don't even think that that's a negative of it. If this is how you're going to be portraying human characters in these movies, I'm okay with that moving forward. Because the action was so good, the CGI was so good, and the characters that they developed and created were awesome, and we fell in love with them. We can't highly recommend this enough. Like, this is the movie to watch right before we get to see Mortal Kombat coming off of a 4-hour Justice League, Wonder Woman a few months back. This is a movie that delivers what it promises. And I think everybody in the family, if you enjoy anything of these two franchises, you're going to get something out of this movie. So let me know your thoughts, though. What did you think about Godzilla vs. Kong? It is crushing in the movie theaters, it is crushing in reviews, and it is crushing in the conversation. These two titans did battle, gave us a great spectacle, and now we get to enjoy talking about it and what the future holds for the Monsterverse. Let me know your thoughts. What did you think about the movie? What do you think about the future of this universe? I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and you can follow the show on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. Next up, we have to jump into the MCU as we have to talk about not only episode 3 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but we missed last week, so we are going to talk about the last 2 episodes of the latest edition in the MCU, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We'll start off with episode 2. Some notes I wanted to kind of just get out there, and we'll kind of break them all down is I was loving in episode 2 the subtle and even not so subtle nods of racial tensions. And what I mean by that is obviously the ending when it comes to them getting arrested and the cops coming over to talk to Sam and to Bucky after they were at the old super serum test subject and how the cops were reacting to Falcon. And I know a lot of people felt weird about it and felt like it was forced and pushed. But this is the argument and the counter to I have to a lot of people who feel like it's woke or it's too political or whatever the case may be. And this is to the people who actually want to have a conversation, who aren't just being trolls. I think they've done a good job of subverting some of those expectations when it comes to the racial and economic tensions, the social subjects. For example, they could have gone the basic route when it comes to the banker, right? Where he didn't want to give him a loan. But instead of just making him the mustache trolling white guy, they explain it. He's like, look, I want to. You're an Avenger. Why don't Avengers make money? I can't do this. This is the policy. This is the world we're living in. Now, it is a commentary to the world that we live in that even just the bottom line, you can't avoid it even if you're an Avenger, right? But they don't make it the basic thing of, I'm not going to give it to you because you're a black family. And then you look around to episode 2 where they have the cops being called on them. And again, a very simple, basic show. You have the Falcon who's going to get harassed, arrested, beat down, whatnot. And then they find out that he's an Avenger. Instead, they start to kind of build to it. Then because he's an Avenger and it's 2021, they're like, oh, wait, this is who this is. So they put that little worm in your head to be like, this happens in the real world. And then they arrest the white guy. That is brilliant. Because you can't say that we're trying to tell this message. This is all it is, beating over the head. No. It made sense for the story because how did they get out of jail? How did they get able to move the story forward? Well, they got to have and be bailed out by U.S. agents, by new Captain America. And by the way, in that storyline, I love the direction of the new Cap. That they give you his backstory, that he is going to be rougher around the edges. But again, this isn't some nefarious dude who was looking to become Captain America and was evil in those intentions. This was a dude doing his job that got asked and was given this mantle. I love that. Again, it's a thing where I'm just doing my job. What does that mean? What does that mean that I'm just doing my job and I'm going to do my job and get it done by any means necessary, even if it's for the greater good? Because again, we've seen it in this universe with Thanos. And in episode 3, Zemo brings it up of like Hitler. So that idea of like the right intentions, right? Roads are built by the right intentions. The action in episode 2 and episode 3, this series is the Bourne Identity to the max. Like what they are able to do when it comes to choreographing action and big moments, top tier stuff. And the chemistry, I mean, we really saw it come full circle in episode 3, but in the beginning of episode 2, with Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie, they have wonderful buddy cop chemistry. They know how to feed off each other. They know how to improvise with one another. You could tell that they've worked alongside each other for a long time. And it oozes off the television. So episode 2 laying the groundwork for this super serum soldier program that there were many more people who were tested, many more who were able to survive. You know, we have a black Captain America from back in the day. Does this mean now that they've opened up the door of old man super soldiers? Wink, wink, hint, hint. That in its own is pretty fascinating. And we have a fun scene with them doing the therapy with one another. Again, that's where it shows like the chemistry. But episode 2, laying the groundwork for the super serum soldiers, doing a great job of showing you racial tension and subverting it all at the same time, and still having a very engaging story. Which leads us to episode 3, where we know we got to go see Zemo because of everything that's going on. And here's the one thing I got to say about Baron Zemo, the character in this than in Winter Soldier. So much more entertaining in this one. Just, it's much more flamboyant in a good way. Much more menacing in a good way. Much more intriguing, I would say. And again, you talk about chemistry. he goes really well with Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. They feed off each other. And I have to say this now, Sharon Carter's Bay. I mean, what a awesome introduction into the series. And I love throughout the entire episode, again, subverting expectations. A very simple thing is she's cold-blooded. She's mean because everybody forgot about her. And then at the end, we see her talking to somebody. We see her, is she really on the up and up? Who is she working with? She's obviously going to be a good guy, but who is she working with? Love that they introduced that at the very end of the episode. Again, we get great action, awesome music. I love, again, talk about some of the other moments that, like, just subtlety. We have a moment where Anthony Mackie is talking about, like, I look like a pimp because they're trying to infiltrate this siege cyberpunk-esque city. And, you know, Baron Zemo's like, leave it to an American to make it a racial thing, that dressing nicely and having fashion means one thing for a black man. And it's like, again, that's so smart because they're not beating you over the head. And it's Baron Zemo. You know, the guy who you would think would play every Nazi in a movie is the one telling you that. Again, great writing and great facial expressions and they let things breathe. And that's what you saw in episode 3. And we talked about it earlier about how I liked in episode 2 kind of the storytelling of the new Captain America. By episode 3, we've seen that he's gone full U.S. agent. We know where they're going with this character. I don't think he's going to be the big antagonist throughout the entire thing. You know, like, I don't think that we're going to finally see him and he's going to be the main bad guy. But we're going to see this descent. And I made this conversation. I'm like, Wyatt Russell, you don't bring in just to play a one and done. This Captain America, this version is going to stay for a while. So I'm interested to see how far they're willing to go with him. But the very big ending, everything that I just put it all together was the ending of Wakanda. And we see that they're talking to Bucky again. And they've been following him because Baron Zemo is the murderer of, T'Chaka, the original Black Panther that we see in Winter Soldier. And everybody knows that, like, one of my favorite nicknames in all of comic books is when they call Bucky the Winter Soldier the White Wolf when he's in Wakanda. And he even mentions that in episode 2. The ending, though, again, it's world building. It's bigger. And honestly, we haven't seen a lot of Wakanda besides the Black Panther movie and these big crossovers. So this has a chance to really bring us back into this country, this world that we love. That's so positive. That's so much fun to be in. And for them to bring them up this way, nice little subtle thing. And we know the world's going to get bigger and bigger. And what does it mean when you have Baron Zemo now? So after 3 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I do think I'm enjoying it more than WandaVision. I think not having to guess every week what's going to happen, while some would think that that's kind of a bummer and not as fun, I actually think it's more beneficial to the show because I can just wake up on Fridays, get to work, and put it on. And just enjoy 40 minutes of wonderful acting, great writing, fantastic action, and I'm done with it. And we move forward, and they tell me what they want to tell me. And yet I'm still excited for the very next week to see what they're going to bring and what they have in store for us. And they just keep building on this lore. Think about how much we learned in WandaVision, how much bigger the world seems to have gotten. Even when we've had Infinity War and Endgame, they're doing that right now with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's crazy. We never would have thought they would do this 10 years ago. And here we are. Some of the best television we have going on right now. Look, I know a lot of people aren't liking a lot of the racial and social commentary that they're doing. I think it's brilliant. I don't think it's over the head. I think anytime they bring it up, it's for the story. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good. That's what storytelling's supposed to do. It's supposed to make you think, make you get out of your comfort zone. Because look, if you want to stay in your comfort zone, there's a perfect movie for that. And that's Godzilla versus Kong. But if you're looking for something that just so happens to be entertaining, action-packed, and IP that you know, but also has a message, I think they're knocking it out of the park with this one. So episode 2, episode 3, really loving what they're doing with Falcon and Winter Soldier. The acting is awesome. The action is amazing. I love the storytelling. And of course, I'm loving just the message that's both subtly and not so subtle being given to the audience. But I want to know your thoughts, though. What do you think about this new installment in the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 3? The MCU is going nice and strong, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down with the type of content we are going with the show. I am so excited for episode for. But let us know your thoughts all over the interweb. What did you think about Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and of course, follow the show on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. And finally, friends, before we head out of here, this news broke a few days ago, and it has to do with Warner Brothers and the DCEU. Of course, the success and a lot of the hype coming out of Zack Snyder's Justice League was the future of the DCEU. And we know we have this Flash movie that's supposedly coming, and now there's rumors about Michael Keaton maybe not being able to be in it, which would be a huge bummer. But some news broke of that's going to bum some people out. That's kind of disappointing in my opinion. So this is from Warner Brothers themselves in a statement that was just released a few days ago. As part of our DC slate, some legacy development titles, including New Gods and The Trench, will not be moving forward. We thank our partners Ava DuVernay, Tom King, James Wan, and Peter Safran for the time and collaboration during this process, and look forward to our continued partnership with them on other DC stories. The projects will remain in their skillful hands if they were to move forward in the future. So there we go. I was so excited to see what a phenomenal director like Ava DuVernay was going to do with the New Gods. And of course, James Wan killed it with Aquaman. I wanted to see him put a horror spin in it with The Trench, but here we are. And I think this is a conversation that the good brother and I are going to debate when he finally comes back to studio, and we can have a good conversation about it. But I don't think the success and the hype of Zack Snyder's Justice League is going to move the Snyderverse forward. Because if they were, we would have seen this move forward. We would have seen these things be part of the plan. Now, there have been talks that there is a Green Lantern movie to be slated and come out in 2022, 2023. So that has not moved. So they're still going to make character movies. They're still going to make these tentpole movies, these IP in development and continue with them. But I don't think the continuation is going to keep happening. I do think after Wonder Woman 1984 and it not being the success that they wanted it to be, it's never been able to get a hold of anything. And the time it finally does is a movie that's 2 years too late and none of the actors are in it anymore and we've moved forward. And that's in the Justice League. So this news, while such a bummer, and while they do mention in it that they're going to continue a partnership with other DC stories, that's just it. Other DC stories. That means they're going to give Ava DuVernay a chance to make her own movie. Make it something unique. Doesn't have to be part of this universe. Or maybe it's creating a new one. Whatever the case may be, I think, and I could be wrong, it would be the first time ever in history, but I don't think they're moving forward with the Snyderverse, and I think this is just one more nail in that coffin. And we have the Batman coming out, and we know that JJ has his own Superman movie coming, and there's talks about recasting there as well. So it's a bummer. James Wan, Ava DuVernay, we won't get to see their movies, whether it's a spinoff of Aquaman in the Trench by James Wan, or this epic galactical movie that would have been the New Gods with Ava DuVernay behind the helm. Either way, we will get projects of them still moving forward. It kind of sucks that we won't get to see them in this form, but never say never in this world. And even in the statement themselves, Warner Brothers isn't closing the door completely. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that if you were looking forward to those two movies. But we'll wait and see. We did get an announcement from The Rock himself that Black Adam has a release date, and he called out Shazam himself, Zachary Levi. So are they still doing that? Even though that kind of felt like in its own universe to begin with? See, this whole thing makes no sense. That is why we are here, to try to make sense out of it. As far as we know, the reports coming from Warner Brothers himself, no longer New Gods or The Trench on the docket, but Ava DuVernay and James Wan will stay in the family. We'll see what that means for projects moving forward. But that'll do it for us on this edition of the Good Brothers here on Mercado Airwaves. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Don't forget, you can follow us all over the universe. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and you can follow the show on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. The good brother himself, Alex Mercado, is on Twitter at Mercado21Alex, and on Instagram at Mercado2121. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We're on all the major platforms at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the network at patreon.com/Mercado Mercado Airwaves, the home to our interviews with athletes and celebrities that you could get ad-free and before anybody else. That's patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag. Check us out at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Come play video games with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. And of course, keep up to date with everything we're doing on the network. From the True Crime Show, the Pop Culture Show, our interviews, the Sports Show, our sister podcast, the Gone Missing podcast, by following us on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. For the good brother himself, Alex Mercado, I'm the good brother, Mike Mercado. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Enjoy those movies. Binge watch that show. We will see you next time here on The Good Brothers on the Mercado Airwaves Network.
Thanks for joining us here on The Good Brothers, here on Mercado Airwaves.